have to decide the kind of lawyer you want to be. Maybe you're the kind of lawyer where you really all you want is 35, 40 hours a week and you want a comfortable living, but you're not going to be a superstar. You're not. You're not going to be the one person that will make a change, that will make change in social justice. And do you know what I'm saying? There's a price to everything. You cannot have your cake and eat it too.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another great episode of Cases Gone Wild. We have a super exciting show for you today with a very famous, well-known Detroit attorney who I'm honored to have join as our guest today. I'm Jon Marko. As you know, I've been an attorney for over 15 years, and I love to talk about some of the craziest, wildest, most insane cases that I've seen in my career and other people have seen in their career from around the country. Today, we have a very special episode for you with Joumana Kayrouz, who's here. And if anybody from the Michigan geographical area, the Detroit geographical area, everybody knows Joumana. Everybody knows you, Joumana. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. What a dynamite introduction. My goodness, I have to keep up with you.
We have to have a dynamite introduction for a dynamite guest like
you
yourself.
Are so kind. We are a society of mutual admiration. Let me put that out.
That is true.
Yeah.
And I admire you very much. And, you know,
Thank
as I
you.
got to know you, I felt like I knew you simply from your media presence and, you know, your billboards. I see you every day on my way to work. I see you on the side of buses. I see you on TV. I see you everywhere. But I really got to know you this last year a lot better. And I learned about how genuine of a person you are. And I learned a lot about your story, which I found very inspiring.
Thank you.
And it was the Joumana I didn't know. Is that okay to say that?
It is totally okay. You know, this happens to a lot of people when you don't know them and you only have a picture of them or a tiny clip of them or you read about them. That's all you have to go by to judge them. But you don't really know them.
Yeah, you don't really know them. You
don't.
Almost have a story in your head.
Yeah,
you know?
but 100%, and it's not your fault at the same time.
Yeah.
Because the mind wants to connect, wants to, you know, weave a story, make sense of somebody or something until you know them. Then you discover, you know, they're pretty convoluted.
Well, you have quite the story. You were born in Lebanon, in Beirut.
Yes, sir.
And you came to America in 1986 at the age of 22 with $1,000 in your pocket?
Yes, $1,000. And my ex-husband and I went to New Haven, Connecticut. He was accepted at Yale New Haven Hospital, and I joined him. Yeah, $1,000. Wow. With English being my third language, John.
Your third
language? My
language?
third, not my second. My third. So Lebanese or Arabic is my first. And then Lebanon being a French colony, it was colonized by the French. So we pretty much all speak French while we're very young. And so I learned English at a later time. And I thought I spoke English, by the way, because I had matriculated at the American University of Beirut in Lebanon until I came here. And I realized I don't really speak English. It was very hard.
I can't imagine how difficult that is because, look, being a lawyer, being a litigator as you are, and I know your firm does a lot of litigation work, is hard enough as it is. It's extremely difficult. Many have tried, many have failed. I can't imagine having an extra difficulty there in having a language barrier, having immigrated here.
Yes.
But is it a positive too? I know that you have a great connection with the Middle Eastern community. We have a very large Middle Eastern community here in Michigan.
100%. We have about, 400,000 Middle Eastern people. And I'm very proud to say I am their lawyer. I have a huge connection with the Middle Eastern community. I'm very proud to say that for over 20 years now, I have a radio show in Arabic daily. It didn't start daily, but now it is a live radio show for 1 hour every day. And John, it's one of my biggest pride and joy. Speaking of meaningful work, you do a lot of meaningful work. With every lawsuit that makes the news, you are doing very meaningful work. And I do very meaningful work in that 1 hour that I take very seriously, that I educate people. especially when I started about 20 years and 15 years ago, a lot of Middle Eastern people came blue collar. They don't have access to lawyers. They don't even know what a credit card is.
Right.
Can you believe it?
Do you think it's harder for an individual, like, I think it's hard for anybody who gets hurt and has to sue, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but do you think it's harder for people, Middle Eastern people who maybe have a language barrier as well? Are they treated differently by insurance companies? And sometimes do you find it challenging? And we'll talk about some specific cases today because we have one that we're working on together, but challenging when you have a client who doesn't speak English or who came from a different country.
100%. The culture is different, and you understanding the culture is very important. You speaking the language with them is very important. And here is another thing. The Middle Eastern people, they like a lot of one-on-one attention, and they want you to take time explaining things to them. And, you know, a lot of non-Middle Eastern law firms are not best situated to serve clients like that. I do a lot of that. By the time a client of mine is settled, she or he is an expert on their case because I've held their hand from the very beginning till the very end. They know where they were, they know why they are here and where they're heading. They know why and they know why not. I treat them very, very respectfully, and they demand that. They demand that. Yeah.
Well, one thing that really struck me with you, so we had a mediation this week.
Yes, we did.
We're not going to get into all the confidential things in the mediation, but it really struck me with you that you came with your client.
Yes, of course.
You were speaking with your client the whole time.
Of course.
You were very compassionate and caring about your client.
Yes.
You knew your client's case. You knew all about the damages, how he was affected.
Do you know how many times I've already met with that client? About 30 times.
30 times.
About 30 times from the beginning of his case. Do you think that case built itself out?
No.
Do you think my Middle Eastern client knows? Do you know, John? You know. Do you know you have to become a medical advocate for your clients because of the state of medicine?
Yeah.
You send somebody to a doctor, they see them for 5 minutes. They're supposed to have heard every one of their complaints. I'm diagnosing TMJs and binocular vision distortion and TBIs. And last I checked, I'm not a doctor.
Right.
But because of the state of medicine being what it is, you know, you have to meet with your client. You have to talk to them. Yes, you have to hear them. And you have to really listen because they're being listened to for 5 minutes by the finest doctors.
Yeah.
Not all, but...
And sometimes there's a language barrier with the doctors as well.
100%.
Which makes it even harder for them to get heard, to be heard, to get the medical care that they need.
Middle Eastern clients are like in a category of their own, and they demand and expect, and in my office, I humbly say, get a lot of attention. Our client, the gentleman that you're talking about, you're looking forward to giving him justice. This gentleman left Iraq with the clothes on his back. He lost everything, and he was pretty well-to-do.
Yeah. Yeah, you know? Let's talk about that. So we're working on a case, very exciting.
Yeah.
We're working on it together. This is awesome.
Yeah.
You know, we have trial scheduled. It's coming up in December.
Yeah.
And the gentleman was driving on, he was getting off the service drive, I believe, or at a stop sign.
He was actually entering, I believe, the service drive.
And got smashed into by a Siemens van.
Siemens truck. Yes.
Driven by a felon.
Yes.
Who they had hired and put behind the wheel of a Siemens truck.
So let me interrupt.
Yeah.
They were not disputing liability. So another lawyer may or may not think of taking the deposition of the driver. You insisted. And what did you find out? I mean, kudos to you. You found out that he's a convicted felon, used to be a drug dealer. Mm-hmm. You're looking into other things right now, such as, hiring and
supervision.
But another lawyer would not have taken that deposition because they're not disputing liability.
Yeah. And, that's one thing that I try to instill in the lawyers. Look, they say, John, why do I want to go and do the extra work to go take the deposition?
If liability is not at issue.
At issue.
Yeah.
And I say take it every time.
Yeah.
No matter what. Take it every time. And, the reason is we get to trial sometimes and then suddenly they say, oh, just kidding. We're going to blame your client now.
Because can we come out and say this? I don't know when this is going to come out. Maybe after our trial, if we go down that road, if we go that far. Now they don't want to put this person on the stand because no jury is going to like this person or believe this person.
Guy's a liar. He ended up lying in his deposition. He said that he tried to blame our client, even though the lawyer said that the lawyer for the defendant, for Siemens, said that it wasn't the fault.
We're not disputing liability.
Yeah. So, I mean, you got to do your homework on these. That's why I'm glad that both of our offices are. And, you know, just a wonderful gentleman. And we're looking forward to going. He's very seriously injured, too. And, you know, multiple surgeries, just horrible. So we're looking forward to trying to get justice.
What about, do you want to tell your watchers, your audience about the policy limits and what happened on this case?
Yeah.
This is very shocking. This is beyond shocking.
It is. And this is
not to you, it's not.
No, because I'm naturally, I think, distrustful of defense insurance companies and defendants. But what was very frustrating for us was in the beginning, look, everybody knows insurance is important, right?
Yes.
We can't evaluate the case till we know how much insurance there is.
That's right.
Now, Siemens is a worldwide company.
Yes.
They have a lot of vehicles on the road.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're based in Germany or something, but they have, I mean, it's multi-billion dollars with a B company. Mm-hmm. And when we first started working on this case, the defense attorney and the defendant said, we only have $2 million of insurance coverage. Right. And you and I got together and we said, wait a minute, something doesn't seem right here.
Yeah.
You know, we need to dig further. And this is the difference between lawyers that, you know, dig like you, like your firm and my firm.
Like you. Like
us.
Let me say something about that. And I am learning more and more the more I'm watching you do your cases and working cases together. You seem not to accept things at face value. Things that seem to be official. For example, just going back to your ambulance case, when something told you that the posted speed limit that was in that video that was handed to you by the defense isn't the speed that the ambulance driver was using, and you got to the original whatever in California,
right,
and it turned out that this... Listen, most lawyers, myself included, until now, would have accepted the video given to us by the defense. It's just like you're constantly probing. And I think this is a very important message to me and every other lawyer who's watching. We tend to take things maybe more often than we should at face value. You wouldn't accept that, and you were right. Now, I mean, I don't know if it was your reconstructionist who told you there is no way the speed is what they're saying it is. I really don't know. But you seem, and what I'm learning, because with this case, you know, until we sat down and we said there is no way a big company like Siemens has a $2 million policy, you know, I mean, we would accept it. They even went in front of the judge. And you know what they said?
Court papers.
You know what they said? Oh, Your Honor, we did not think that the value of the damages will even rise to $2 million because they're God. And that's at the beginning of the case.
Yeah.
This is the part that is really... And
it's troubling.
It's very troubling. It's very troubling. It makes you question, what is it that you can take at face value anymore?
Right, because they filed papers with the court, just so our listeners know. Whenever in Michigan now, whenever you have a lawsuit, the very first thing the defendant has to do is say, I have insurance or I don't have insurance, and here's my insurance policy.
Right.
So, for example,
apparently they don't have to say, here are all the insurances.
Yeah, right.
What did you subsequently discover?
So they hid 2 policies from us.
That's right.
Which is
above the $2 million.
Above the $2 million. So the way, and to our listeners, if people hear about this, it's crazy.
Yeah.
There's a base policy, and then a lot of companies have what's called umbrella or excess insurance, right? So it's if things go really bad, like you have a felon
Each
drug...
and every one of us should have an umbrella policy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have a felon drug dealer who you put behind the wheel of your van.
Whose deposition you insisted on taking, although we had no issues with liability, because now they're begging you not to go to trial.
Right.
They don't want to put this guy on trial because no jury is going to like this guy.
Because it's horrible. But they lied and they hid the insurance. Then we discovered that there's another $10 million of insurance. But it didn't stop there because we still didn't stop. We said, something doesn't smell right. So we took the deposition of the representative who is responsible for insurance.
The corporate representative.
Yeah, and we're here almost at trial, like 2 years later from when they were supposed to. And by the way, right.
We have a tower insurance of $25 million.
Yeah.
So here we thought $2 million, and now we're looking at $37 million.
$37 million, big difference. And they had an ethical and legal responsibility to turn that over. It's a shame that we have to fight for what is supposed to be disclosed immediately.
But the lesson here, John, is as a lawyer, you really have to dig. And if it doesn't make sense, chances are it's not what it is. It's not. And a lot of us, look, you're teaching me a humongous lesson at my tender age of 25 60 years old.
25.
40 years old. But having been a lawyer for 25 years, one of the most shocking things I'm learning from you, I'm not complimenting you. I want everybody to hear this, that you cannot even necessarily believe official records that you get. Going back to the Siemens case, they stood in front of the judge and they said there is 10 million. They said half the truth.
Half the truth. First they said a third of the truth. Then they said, half the truth.
In front of a judge.
Yeah.
In front of a judge.
And I don't understand that, look, you have to question. I always believe, in following when your gut tells you something, most of the time it's right.
You are 100% right. But then again, you have to be that kind of lawyer who cares. You have to be that kind of lawyer who is, if all you're thinking about is working as close to 40 hours and making the nicest living, you're not going to take the deposition of the corporate rep. You're not going to take the deposition of an at-fault driver where liability is already not contested. You're not going to do that. You have to, whatever your reasons are, whether it is money or whether it is really you care, you have to make a decision what kind of lawyer you want to be.
Right.
You can live life very comfortably and make money, but you know what? You're shorting your clients.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
But again, I know I'm saying this for the third time. I just want to say it again. I told you I've had more than 40,000 cases.
40,000 cases.
Well, 25 years, more than 150 lawyers over the span of my years. But the one thing that I'm shocked, this is not Lebanon here, okay? This is not the Middle East. This is the United States of America. And what I'm seeing in working some cases with you is just shocking me. I don't believe it happens here, but it is happening. It really is happening. What about back to your ambulance case where they provided you the employee file of the ambulance driver and conveniently left out his discipline?
Yeah. They took it out of the file. It's disgusting. And nobody, look, that's why we have these trials. But if you don't have an effective advocate,
that's what I'm trying to say.
They'll win. And I appreciate that.
It is so very true, though, John.
You're right.
Really.
So you get a lot of really big cases. And,
I do.
And tell us, how did you go from having $1,000 in your pocket, not even being able to speak English as a first language, to this empire that you have today, to having your face be all over the metropolitan Detroit area and on the airport? I go to the airport, I come back from the airport, I go to work, I come back from work.
So John, when I came and lived in Connecticut and before I matriculated at Yale, my English was so bad. I was taking classes at a local college, and I really would not understand the professor. I take a tape recorder with me, and he had such a thick Southern accent, and I would tape him and go back home. I was studying philosophy and listen to it again and again and again. But just to answer, can I tell you my truth?
Yeah, absolutely.
Without intending to offend or talk about religion here, but
that's okay. Look, this is a judgment-free zone here on Cases Gone Wild.
Look, it's very simple. My faith. Look, I don't come from a Kennedy. I certainly did not come from money, and I am not a genius. I'm very smart. I'm very hardworking. I'm a whole lot of things without which you cannot, make it in life. But let me tell you something. I was not slated to succeed. I mean, I'm a girl from the Middle East in a male-dominated field. I have an accent. I'm blonde. English is my third language. Look, if you didn't hear about me, no biggie. I mean, look, she had everything up against her, but I went back to my faith. And I said, I'm not going to listen to what society says about me or what my Middle Eastern culture says about me or what these lawyers who are giving me a hard time are going to say about me. I was very minimized originally, truly minimized by the legal profession. I mean, I remember the first time I walked in front of a judge, he could not believe I am a lawyer. I was a lawyer. And he still is about to retire in Wayne County. And he had me say my P number. That was so humiliating. It was
in front of all the other lawyers?
County. It was Wayne County on motion day on Friday. And I remember looking at him and saying, one day you're going to remember my face. So.
You said that?
No.
Inside.
You bet not outside. You bet not outside.
And just so our listeners know, I mean, Wayne County motion day on Fridays, there was
Packed.
80 people in the room. There was 80 lawyers waiting.
Yeah.
And so if you screwed up, if the judge embarrassed you or whatever.
Here is another place where I screwed up. Another time I was sent on like a $15,000 settlement for a deceased, and everybody and their brother came out of the woodwork as heirs to this person.
Like they always do.
Exactly.
Right?
And so they sent me on this $15,000 case, and men in suit to my right, a couple of lawyers to my left, and the judge would say, do you have an objection to a GAL? No objection, Your Honor. No objection, Your Honor. No objection. It got to me, well, I don't know what the heck a GAL is. I had the courage to say, Your Honor, I'm not sure what a GAL is. I do not know a guardian ad litem. I did not know. Okay, I didn't know. And everybody started laughing. And I knew if I said that, I could have gone along.
Yeah.
I could have played the safe.
But you had the courage to speak up because you could have just said no objection and
I couldn't
nobody
live
would
with
have
myself.
ever known. But
it's okay for them to ridicule me, but I needed to respect myself.
Yeah.
So how? So I went back to my holy book. With all due respect to everybody's holy book and those who don't believe in another religion, maybe they believe in something bigger than themselves. And you know what my holy book said? My holy book said, I am his workmanship, created for good works. I am his workmanship. I looked up that word in every dictionary, in every version, because I needed to know what that word workmanship meant. And what do you know? Turned out it is a master's finest work. It is work that can never be duplicated. It is the Greek, it comes from the Greek word, I'm like a poem. I'm never repeated. There is no do-over. I am implanted with a chip for good work. I am, do you have 2 Mona Lisas? Do you have 2 Sistine Chapels? Do you have 2 busts of David? Well, imagine how tiny that is to what that holy book said, that I, little girl I, from the Middle East, am his finest work and very unique and implanted with a chip for good works. So you know what? Every time I doubted myself, and I doubted myself a zillion times, and to this day I continue. But now my way of thinking about it has changed. I go back. I go back to that word and I say, I either believe it or I don't. If I believe it, I am a workmanship. You are a workmanship. And you know why I would not be jealous of you, but I would be inspired? Because what I have, you don't have. And what you have, I don't have. But I can be inspired by you, and you can be inspired by me. And I have something you're never going to have, John. And that applies to every human being in the world, which is why there should not be jealousy at all. Yeah. So I stuck to that, and I put one foot in front of the other. And I told you that before. Tons of mistakes, John, because I don't know what they teach you in law school. I don't know what you learned in law school. I didn't even learn where to stand in a courtroom from law school.
Neither did I.
They also don't teach you to run a business.
No,
and I
they
don't
do
know.
not.
And let me tell you, let me put it out there. I don't know that I am that I know even how to run a business. I mean, I get up every day and I try and I learn and I reflect and I see where I tripped and what I can learn from it, and I talk to experts and I use my money for good resources and I learn from people like you and all of that. But that's what it is my faith in myself, which everybody can apply, comes from that unchanging word that says, oh my God, I am his greatest masterpiece. I'm a masterpiece. I'm going to act like that. Now, of course, there is a lot I don't know, and there is a lot I'm not going to know. And yeah, okay, maybe I need to hone my skills. Maybe I need to go study more. Maybe it's not for me. But this is the way it is. And then I put one foot in front of the other. And then when I got divorced, John, I had a compelling reason. I had 2 little girls depending on me. So if I sank, they sank with me.
Yeah.
I couldn't. But really, it really starts with doing the next thing and then the next thing. And then when you doubt yourself, and you're going to doubt yourself plenty, go back to what's bigger than you and what does it say about you and stick to that. That's it.
That's very beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you have advice for young individuals who are in similar circumstances that you, or who are in front of the judge, who maybe had some hardships and who are scared, like maybe many of us were when they were young?
What do you mean? I'm scared every day. Anytime you get out of your box, maybe not every day, but every day you get out of your box where what may happen is outside what's called the locus of your control.
Yeah.
You are scared. Of course you are. There is a level of fear in doing this. I've never done this before.
You're doing great, Joumana.
Well,
You're
thank
doing
you.
great.
But my point is, this is maybe a smaller example of something that can be, I don't know, tomorrow it may be trial or what have you. Courage is, showing up. And sure, I mean, look, we talk about the man in the arena, and of course you're gonna fall, and of course you're gonna make mistakes, and unfortunately you learn more from your mistakes than from when you do it.
That's right.
But my point is, just show up and know you're going to be ridiculed. Know you're going to make mistakes, and some will be, more costly than others. But if you're asking me about advice for lawyers, can I say a couple of things?
Yeah.
With all due respect to this new breed of lawyer that's coming out, they believe in a lot of quality of life and balance. And balance looks to them like working 35 hours a week. Look, you can never be a Jon Marko or even dream of being one. Let me ask you, how many hours do you put in a week, John?
A lot. I mean, I work
40, 50, 60, 70.
I mean, I get up and go straight to work.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I come home and my kids are already asleep and in bed.
Yeah.
And that makes me sad.
I know.
I try to be there when I can, but if I'm in trial, if I'm getting ready for a trial, if I got to run a business, there's really no shortcuts, if you want to.
The law is a very jealous mistress.
That's
and
right.
If you want to hone your skill and be good at it, you're not looking at hours. And it just seems to me like the new generation of lawyers, they want to put in 35, 40 hours. They don't want to try cases.
Yeah, and they also want to make $1 million.
And they want to make, at least $400,000 the first year out of law school.
Yeah.
And look, you have to decide the kind of lawyer you want to be. Maybe you're the kind of lawyer where you really all you want is 35, 40 hours a week and you want a comfortable living, but you're not going to be a superstar. You're not. You're not going to be the one person that will make a change, that will make change in social justice. And do you know what I'm saying?
I know
There's
exactly
a price to everything. You cannot have your
there is
cake
a price
and
to
eat
everything.
it too.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I could not agree with you more on that. And people have to make a decision on what they want and follow.
And it starts with your values.
Yeah.
And no judgment there. If you want to work 35, 40, fine.
Yeah.
But one should be careful unless you're working on 20 cases a year. I mean, do you want to leave money on the table for your client? Right. And my question is, how many of us have left money on the table by not trying cases? I mean, you try so many cases. Last I checked, most insurance companies aren't going to really give you. What is that saying that is on Frederick Douglass on your wall in your office? Nobody's gonna give you willingly.
You gotta fight for it. It's something like you have to fight for everything.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna give it to you.
And insurance companies, I'm sorry, they're in the business of saving money. I mean, the 3Ds, delay, deny, defend.
Yeah.
Right. So almost every case you settle, you wonder how much money you left on the table. And again, going back to that advice, you have to kind of decide, but you can't have the best of both.
You can't have it all. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You're right. That story you told about, that's an interesting story. And I'm sorry that, that you had to go through that, but it probably helped make you who you are today,
I'm not sorry.
Right?
I'm not sorry. It was so humiliating that my first instinct is to think I'm nothing. Remember, I'm this little girl who came from the Middle East. This little girl is not supposed to have put her hand up and been sworn in front of the United States Supreme Court.
Right.
Do you know what a moment that was? So that moment in court, that I had to stop and say, am I going to give in to how I'm being made to feel?
Yeah.
Is that who I am? Am I going to be swallowed by the system or no?
Yeah. Well, you're a strong person. You've obviously persevered and you've done well. That story reminds me, it's not comparable, but I had a case once. Jeffrey Feiger, who's a friend of mine and was a mentor. I worked for him for a while, and we had a case downtown Detroit in Wayne County where this little girl was shot by the police. Her name was Ayanna Jones. It was a very famous case, and the police officer's name was Joseph Weekly. He had a submachine gun. They came in the door and he shot this little girl. She was sleeping on the couch. And there was a huge hearing downtown.
Was that kind of a raid gone bad?
The raid gone bad, yeah. This was when they had A&E. They filmed a show called The First 48, and it's like you got to catch the crooks in the first 48 hours. They'll get away.
I'm gonna go check it out.
You should, if you Google it. If you're out there, you can Google it.
Yeah.
And so there was a huge hearing downtown, like you see in the movies, where there was a swarm of reporters outside the courthouse. And Jeffrey was busy, and it was like just a perfunctory hearing. Like there
young
wasn't
associate.
So he sent me. He said, "Marko, go down there." He goes, "Don't say anything stupid to the news." So I go down there. We go into the courtroom, and it's like one of those things. I mean, I'm not kidding. It was like on TV where you see like the whole courtroom was full of cameras. Like you see these cameras
like
around
OJ,
us.
yeah, like OJ Simpson kind of, yeah.
So this is one of the first hearings I've ever done, and like you said, nobody ever told me where to stand. So I get into the courtroom. I see all these reporters. They're looking at me like, who's this young nobody kid? The chief prosecutor for Wayne County was looking at me like, who's this nobody young kid? The judge was looking at me like, who's this nobody? You know what my biggest problem was?
What?
Where the hell do I sit and stand? Because I didn't know which table to sit at.
I hear you.
And so I did what you did. When you told that story, I could have just shot at a seat and tried to sit down. I went up to the chief prosecutor who was on the other side, and I said, look, man, this is my first hearing. I said, where do I sit?
That took humility for you to say that to the judge.
I figured it was better than the
that
alternative.
That took vulnerability.
They laughed and said, don't worry, kid. It's right there, But anyways, so, you have a massive marketing plan. Okay. You are probably one of the most prolific marketers out there because your face is everywhere. And I know you've had to work really hard to get there.
And I continue to work very hard. I cannot sit on my laurels for more than 5 minutes.
Oh, I can tell.
Are you kidding me? You're as good as the last review. Absolutely.
That's right.
Oh, yeah. You never get there.
Yeah. And you have gotten some really crazy big cases. Mm-hmm. And let's talk about some of them. So you have this case right now that I'm working on with you. I'm proud to be working on with you, where this truck, literally they packed the load so much that it hit a bridge. Tell our listeners about this. It's crazy.
Our client continues to be hospitalized. The accident happened in August, and ICU until about a month ago. And
a long time, and over a month.
We're not done yet. He's not back home. He went back to a rehab, and our client just went back to the hospital with a respiratory infection. You want to laugh. You saw the pictures about the ulcer that he developed because they're not taking good care of him in the hospital. This is one of the things with these semi trucks. All about money, isn't it?
Always about money. I always
Okay.
say follow the money.
Right. And we're looking into whether it was overloaded. We filed suit. And
Tell them what happened. Tell how the
so the load wasn't proper and the truck went under the bridge
like
and
an
caused,
overpass, like an overpass.
It,
right?
it's an overpass. Thank you. See, English is my third language. Remember
Well,
that.
bridge technically is right. Yeah, but yeah, you're right.
The
You're right.
underpass. And the load fell. And
In the middle of the highway.
yes. And this was reported on in the news. It caused more than, one injury. So our clients, he is still, right now, he's in the hospital again because he has yet another.
He's driving down the road. I mean,
septic.
imagine this.
Yes.
You're driving down the highway and all of a sudden a massive trucking load
Right.
comes off a truck that at an overpass. I mean, how stupid do you have to be? I mean, that should never have happened.
That should never has happened. And again, it is the power of these lawsuits that hopefully improves the system. I'm all with you. And I understand more and more why one needs to advertise certain cases. How good is it if like your last case with the woman's religious right to refuse the vaccine because it's made of fetal cells? That's great. And, your $13 million judgment is wonderful. And you may want to be humble about it, but it's all about the intention. You want to advertise it because here is the idea. You want to send the message out there by carefully selecting cases where you can effect social reform or change outdated laws or unjust laws. You want to blast them. You want to do the most PR because you want to shame these corporations, these hospitals,
Right.
these trucks, these whatever, not only with the 13 million Blue Cross Blue Shield is going to pay, but even more than that, you want to give them, you want to expose them in the media because you want them to not want to have that kind of bad exposure next time. So you really want to blow it up in the media.
I agree with you 100%. It's like,
So it's not anymore about bragging. It's all about how you look at it.
Right.
And it's not about bragging. And who can blame you for that too? I mean, you earned it. No, wait, you earned it.
But-
You earned it. You're not putting in 35 hours a week, but how else? You have to do a campaign. Anytime you have one of these cases, like your sexual assault case or this case or the ambulance case, how many of us think that ambulance cars are immune?
right.
You have to shame by putting a huge marketing campaign. It's a duty on you.
Yeah, it's
How
and we
else are you
hope to
gonna
affect
change?
change. It's like throwing a pebble in a pond, right? And it ripples out, right? Like so that
You are
verdict-
affecting change.
Yeah, we hope it's
But then
gonna
you can
make
do
the
more
company,
about
and
it.
we can do more.
By blasting that.
Yeah.
By blasting it. My former partner, the mighty giant Harry Philo
Yeah.
from the Philo Atkinson firm, he used to be considered the father of product liability.
Very
the one-
famous lawyer.
Very. And I was his nano partner, okay? And he taught me, he would always say, he said it more about product liability, but I think it can apply to anything we do in personal injury and in civil rights and so forth. And he used to say, the purpose of product liability is not money. The purpose of product liability is the prevention of injury. But when that fails, then money damages. I say the purpose of your religious discrimination, the sexual assault, whatever it is, and I know your heart, I believe I know your heart, is the prevention of future injury. But when that fails, at least in the case we have in front of us, money damages. But now, by taking that result and broadcasting it, I really think we're going to cause them. Nobody wants bad rap. Nobody
Right.
does. Nobody does. It's not good for anybody. It's not good for Blue Cross Blue Shield, and it's not good, for the city of Detroit. And, you and I have been talking a lot about police chases.
Yeah, and that we looked at a case together on a very tragic case. Tell tell the listeners about this police chase, because police chase in Michigan is very tough, if not almost impossible. But tell our listeners what happened with this horrible tragedy.
So this is a man and a woman who were driving in a car in Warren, and they got caught in the middle of a police chase in the wee hours of a day.
And they're just innocent people out there?
They're completely innocent people out there, but it gets better. The chase by the Warren Police Department is because of some ridiculous minor traffic violation on the part of another car. And it turned into this fatal police car chase. And now, so what started as a minor traffic violation, I mean, they could have taken the license plate and gone home and served that person with his traffic violation. Oh no, they had to chase him, and this man and this woman got caught innocent, completely innocent, and he was injured and she passed, leaving two children.
They killed?
Two children.
One of them died?
Yes, so she died. She died. And now this minor violation turned into now a felony. Now they charge them with, a car accident causing severe death and severe injury. So when I started looking into this, I was shocked that over 40% nationwide of car chases are not because of an imminent danger to the community. It's because of minor traffic violations.
Like speeding or something?
Traffic violations. And
your
so
tail lights out or something.
Right. Yeah. So now the Michigan State issued a directive last March that at least for the state police, see, it hasn't made its way. It's going to take a Jon Marko to file a case to get dismissed under Robinson at the trial court, to appeal and to go in front of a Supreme Court to reconsider unjust laws and immunity, because somebody has to put an end to these needless, terrible police car chases for very, very silly reasons that are causing deaths
of innocent people.
Yes,
yeah, just innocent people.
I send you all the stuff that's happening nationwide. One, I don't remember in what state, a sheriff of one state who used to love his people doing police car chases. The irony, his wife and daughter were killed in an innocently as a result of a car chase for a minor.
That's horrible.
So
it's horrible. And just so our listeners know, because we had, I think a few weeks back, we had Haitham Faraj on this show. And Haitham was talked about a case in Iowa involving a police chase.
Yes.
Where he didn't even represent an innocent person. He represented a guy on a motorcycle who was running away from the police. And he was running away from the police for speeding. He was speeding. And he ended up dying in the police chase. Okay, the police chased him for a long time. They violated the rules. They did all the stuff. It was a minor
minor turned into tragic.
Exactly. And Haitham ended up trying the case and getting a $4 million plus verdict.
Because they don't have a Robinson.
They don't have this rule.
Okay, but laws are always changing, John.
I know. But so our listeners know, in Michigan right now, there's a case in
1988.
Yeah.
Don't
Robinson,
you think it's about time we revisit Robinson?
I know. I do. And, I think we should. In this case called Robinson versus City of Detroit, the Supreme Court at the time, which was a Engler-appointed Supreme Court that was very
conservative,
defense-oriented, said, we're going to change the law, and if you're an innocent person, it is almost impossible to do anything if you're injured in a police chase. I think the rule is the police officer actually has to hit you personally with his car. So like if you...
Right, that's one of the exceptions.
Yeah. Which is extraordinarily difficult and basically cut out a bunch of the cases, which is extremely unjust and unfair. And look, I'm not saying in every case the police should be responsible. If they're chasing a terrorist or a felon or somebody who's endangering kids or a child molester or something.
That's not what the directive to the state police says. That and I wish I have the language. If you have high probability of believing something like has committed or is about to commit but life-threatening.
Okay,
life-threatening. Meaning
felony.
that this person, if left to his or her own devices, is likely to go with a gun, shooting people or something like that.
But not if your tail light's out.
No.
Or something like that.
Absolutely not.
Because then people die. And
yes, this mother left 2 children. This is unfair. Something has to be done about this.
It is unfair. Hopefully, the Supreme Court will reconsider governmental immunity. It needs to change. We're hopeful. The Supreme Court has changed. Now's the time.
Now is the time
to be reasonable again. We just got to be reasonable.
Thank you.
I mean, the law.
Thank you.
There shouldn't be bright line rules in the law, in my opinion, that say, "Look, if this is the case, you're out." A jury should decide. A jury can always decide. Jury can say, "Mr. Police Officer acted reasonable." Jury can decide, Mr. Police Officer.
Fair enough. You believe
did
in the
not.
power of a jury. You believe in the power of 7
I do.
people.
I believe
very much. You do.
I believe in the power of the jury.
So do I.
Judges shouldn't be making the decisions.
Yeah.
Corporations shouldn't be making the decisions. Lawyers shouldn't be making the decisions.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we have a jury. It's
That's
the
right.
protection there.
And it's the best system.
It's the best system.
It
It's
is.
the best system we could come up with.
Yes.
It's the best system I think we'll have. You don't want computers or corporations or government making decisions on these. You need people from the community.
I agree.
So hopefully we can change that, because it's a travesty, and a lot of innocent people are having the courthouse doors shut in their face for these types of things,
Yeah.
And I know that you're fighting and you care, you have a very big heart
I care.
for these people, and trying to figure out where other people will say, well, how am I going to make money on this right now? You're always thinking.
Well, the thing about money,
ways.
thank God I am blessed. I can think well beyond the money. I should always think well beyond the money, but no. Isn't that being a lawyer is really a calling, is it not?
Yeah, it is for me. But
it is for me.
But some people.
Am I doing it on every case? Look, no.
Right.
Because some cases, they don't call to your highest, noblest.
Yeah.
Because the facts aren't there. What
Yeah.
happened isn't there. But in some other cases, yes.
Exactly. And you
Yeah.
have a passion for it. Now, let's
Yeah.
look about some of these other crazy cases that
Yeah.
you have. You have some case up north that we're working on together in Lapeer that when you came to me, Joumana,
Yeah.
and when we said,
It
you
took,
said,
it took
"I
a
need
lot
to
of
tell you-"
convincing, John. It took a lot of
I'm a
convincing.
stubborn guy, but when you told me, I said, this can't be real. This
Yeah.
is crazy. The facts
You're
are
telling me
crazy.
that? I look at your case and say this can't be real. They give you official documents that are
Fake. Right.
Fake.
They're not there. So tell our listeners about this. Got a lot of news too, didn't it?
Oh, yes.
So
All over the news until very recently when the Macomb County prosecutor issued the charges against the driver that we're suing,
Yeah.
and his mother.
Who's a police officer?
Who's a
isn't
police
she?
officer.
So tell our listeners about
Right.
this crazy.
So our
cop case.
beautiful client driving an Amazon truck in the middle of nowhere and got hit by a car. And
Just like just a normal car, right? It wasn't a cop
normal
or
car.
anything.
No, not at all. And instead of calling, so he passed out, and then he was in a coma for a long time. And he
Really
has
badly injured. Horrible.
extremely badly injured to this day. To this day, young 40-year-old man.
Brain damage.
Yes,
Yeah.
with young children. So he was left. Nobody called because it's like in the middle of nowhere. Nobody called the ambulance to come. The kid, we later find out.
The kid who hit him.
Yes, the kid who hit him. We kept asking for the FOIA and not getting it. We subsequently found out that the kid who hit him was not supposed to be driving alone because he's on a segment.
Like a permit.
Yes.
Like a
yes.
learning permit where like
Correct.
you have to have like an adult in the car with you during
Correct.
certain times or whatever.
Calls his mom, who apparently is a police officer in that county, who comes to the scene of the accident, and they file a false police report where she is supposedly with him because he cannot drive without her.
I mean, this is like people would go to. This is a felony.
It
I
is.
mean,
So now because of the conflict of interest, it came out, and we kept asking for the FOIA and not getting it. And we subsequently learn that they moved that case to another county because of the conflict of interest, and it came out that a false police report was filed. The mom/police officer was never in the car with her son, And now they issued the charges. The Macomb prosecutor's office issued charges against the mom / police officer.
Yeah.
And we still don't know whether she was under the authority of, we don't know any of that. And I know you and I are working on that.
It's crazy. I mean, literally
he was left to die until some remote house saw something and called.
That's insane. You know, that the police officer came and then basically like falsified the crime scene essentially.
And
like
filed a false
about
police
it.
report,
Yeah,
which is
and
a
lied
felony.
about it. Where, you know,
And she's held to a higher standard.
exactly. You or I did that, you know, we would be we'd lose our license. We would be completely off. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's a shame. It shouldn't be allowed to happen. I'm really looking forward to getting justice for that because it's so crazy. And people are like, no way. It's like, yeah, a police officer. Now, here's what's troubling. She would go to a crime scene essentially, or an accident scene, and lie as a police officer and basically plant evidence. It's the same thing. It's falsifying evidence, putting in false evidence that could have implications.
Yeah.
Now, if she got caught there, doesn't that make you worry?
Yeah.
What about all those other thousands of investigations she's done?
Yeah.
You know, if she feels, well, you know, justice requires me to do this, I'm going to, you know, lie, falsify evidence. You know, that's what I'd be worried about. And this person was on the force.
And you know what she did also, and I know we're looking into that, the delay in him getting medical assistance. He's busy calling his mom, and she's busy coming to the scene, making it look like she was at the scene, instead of calling for an ambulance for him.
Well,
you wonder why he was in a coma?
Yeah, well, he's having a brain bleed and all this other stuff. That's horrible. I don't understand how people can do that. It's really, especially, you know, if you're going to be to serve and protect, it's pretty crooked. You know, that's really bad.
You know what I came across recently? This book on happiness. And it's made the New York Times bestsellers for a long time. And I forgot the name of the author. I feel bad about that. I'm always thinking about what are the ingredients of happiness. And I know one of them is peace of mind, and one of them is contentment and gratitude and whatever. And this guy who actually teaches, he is a tenured professor at the Harvard Business School.
Yeah.
Do you know what he teaches?
What?
Not trends and emerging markets. And he is a tenured professor at the Harvard Business School teaching a course on happiness. And he distilled it down. It's the best definition in my 60 years that I've ever heard.
What is it?
He distilled it down to 4 things. Faith, or believing in something bigger than yourself, to see how minuscule you are and yet how unique you are. No two people can replace what you're here to do. Faith. Family. He talks about the family. Friends. He talks about the R friends, not the D friends, not Republican, Democrat. Real friends and deal friends.
Real friends and what?
He says, you want the R friends, not the D friends. You want the real friends who want nothing from you.
Right.
Not the deal friends.
Who want...
And there is a room for a little bit of both, but then don't confuse them for real friends. That's all. So he says, happiness is 4 things. It's a dose of faith or believing in something bigger than yourself and seeing your relevance to the whole picture.
Yeah.
Family, very important. Friends, real friends. And the 4th one, which is why I remember to talk about it, meaningful work or work that serves.
Yeah.
And he was asked the question, what about fame and money and whatever? He goes, that's fine. But those they give you, you should use them really to serve. If you get fame as a result of you being so good at your craft and you get wealthy because you're so good at your craft, good for you. But don't pursue them, because if you pursue them, you're never going to be happy. They're going to make you feel good for a minute, for a day, for a week. You're going to want to go get another one of those highs. As he says they give you caloric content, but not nutritional content. So
that's pretty wise. That's very wise.
That book, that guy, wow.
Wow, that's deep. Yeah. That is so.
And that's what we do.
That's what we do.
That's what you do.
That's what you do too.
Yeah.
I mean, those
not on every case.
Yeah.
Let me just come out and say, maybe not every case is a case that reminds you of why you went to law school.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. That's powerful.
Yeah.
What about, did you have a case involving a father and a mother?
Yes. So one thing I want to say about that, the terrible state of medicine we are in.
Yeah.
Have you had any firsthand experiences about that?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen a lot of clients who do not get the care that they need, who are treated like a commodity at the hospitals, who get in and out. Doctors will spend 5 minutes with them.
Thank you.
It's worse if you're, and this is not just me saying
depending
this,
on your health insurance, yeah.
it's worse depending on your health
Yeah.
insurance. Studies have shown unequivocally, this isn't me saying this, but there have been national studies that your healthcare income outcomes. So in other words, your chance of a positive or negative health result, you are much more likely to have a negative result in the healthcare system if you're a minority.
Yes.
Or poor.
Yes.
And that's not just me saying this. This isn't my opinion.
No, this isn't you saying this.
This is literally
I can bring you 20 studies on that.
Yeah.
100%.
This is the
But
data.
even now, if you have the creme of the crop health insurance, doctors are all about, not all, hospitals are all about the bottom line, money. And so they're spending 5 minutes with a patient. And they're only looking at something from their own very narrow perspective.
Yeah.
You go to a cardiologist, he's not going to say, look, I don't see anything, but you may need to consult with a well, you need time for that.
Yeah.
But if you're standing at the door talking to your patient because you pride yourself on seeing 90 patients a day, or because you need to drive income to the hospital or to your partners or whatever, these are at odds. And I've seen this from firsthand experience for people very, very, very close to me. Look, I can talk for hours about how outraged I am about this is the United States of America. This is not a developing country.
Right.
There is no excuse for that here. Talking about this case, so this gentleman was, the mother and father, the estate of the father and the mother came to me suing the son. They understood I'm not suing the son. Lovely Middle Eastern people. I will be recovering money from his insurance.
Right. Which he had paid for and was supposed to pay for a loss.
Thank you. So sometimes when you commit negligence, when you're negligent, they pay up for you.
Yeah. It's always a little weird though. It's like, oh, we got to sue the wife.
Yes.
Or we got to sue the son. But you have to explain.
You have to explain.
It's like we're not trying to ruin the wife or anything like that, but
no.
There's an insurance that was paid for that's supposed to provide coverage.
That's part of the benefits.
Yeah.
So they came to me as a family, the guilt-driven son, the deceased father, and the mother who was in ICU. So I represented.
Was it like a car crash?
Yes.
Okay.
He was driving. I'm so sorry. I live with the stuff. So he was driving and he got into an accident. And as a result, his father died and his mother went to ICU.
I can't imagine that guilt
Unbelievable. Long story short, we got the policy that he had. We got the policy for both the estate of the deceased father and the mother.
So the insurance policy pays.
Yes.
Yeah.
But what came out throughout this is that prior to that accident, he had another accident. And he started developing, and I know there is no medicine right now that correlates a trauma with a new onset of seizure or developing seizure. Maybe medicine will discover that at a later time. Yeah. Maybe there is something emerging that I'm not aware of here.
Well, there is post-traumatic seizures.
Okay.
So I had this in my Detroit case. Detroit case.
Is that the med case?
No, it's a wheel came off a city of Detroit van and smashed our guy. He had a brain bleed.
Yeah.
After this brain bleed and brain damage, he started having seizures. And these seizures were causing him to fall and hurt himself.
Yeah.
And the doctor, the neurosurgeon said that these new seizures, because the guy had never had seizures his whole life. He was maybe 58 years old.
Right.
Seizures are from the brain damage. So it's crazy that brain damage can cause seizures.
So you were able to establish causation?
Yes. Now, look, you're right, though. There's no litmus test, right?
Yeah.
That says
so you leave it to the jury.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now this case is about 12 years older. So
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know how
yeah,
much
yeah,
we
yeah.
knew back then. Long story short, when I obtained the Medicare, so I could have satisfied myself with, look, his father died and the police puts him at fault and we're done. I don't know how I was inspired, and I'm very grateful for that. His medical records from his first accident coming forward, he was complaining of so many signs and symptoms that would have made a reasonable physician, at least in the differential diagnosis, consider a workup for seizure. And he was not worked up. Turned out he had seizures. At the time of his second accident, that's what killed his mother and father.
Because he had a seizure?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
And when that came out, I cannot tell you how much healing happened for him, because he was living with the idea that he killed, because he never knew what happened. He never knew. And you know how it is with seizures. Unless you're plugged to an EEG,
you don't even know you have a seizure.
there is no brain activity.
You just
don't
wake
know
up
anything.
on the ground. You can wake up on the ground.
And
right?
the mother, there were no witnesses. The mother was unconscious and the father was dead. And he does not know what happened to him.
And he could have
passed.
He could have lost consciousness.
Yes.
It's like, who knows?
It's not necessarily a seizure. So he was not diagnosed. He was not worked up for it. He was not diagnosed for it. He was not medicated for it. And it caused him another accident. And that is not I don't know if it's crazy by your definition, but I mean, you know how when they call you when you graduate from law school and you're like, what are my qualifications for that?
Yeah.
Attorney and counselor at law, like this counselor thing. I didn't go to school for it, but you become a healer. You become a counselor to many of your clients.
Yeah.
You help them restore. You give them a voice. You correct a wrong. You get them money that is much, much needed.
Yeah, 100%.
Our client with Siemens walked out of Iraq with the clothes on his back. He had to leave everything because the war in Iraq, everything he worked all his life for. Can you imagine when he how merited this money will be and how helpful it will be?
Absolutely. And, in my experience, people can't start to heal until they get justice, whatever that looks like. It's like a scab or wound that just keeps scabbing over and the scab keeps getting picked off.
Yes.
Going through these lawsuits, litigation, it's not an easy thing for a lot of people.
And that's where a lot of lawyers will cut corners. Let's settle.
Right.
Let's now work it a little bit harder. We'll leave $15,000 on the table or hundreds of thousands. And that's what we're doing wrong by people.
And so it's so nice to see you. As my dad would always say, you're doing God's work. So
I love that.
So thank you,
I
Joumana.
love that, and I love that on this format, you let people say that. Thank you, Jon.
Yeah, this is you can speak your heart. If people don't like it, they can tune into the next episode. But this is the real deal on Cases Gone Wild. Joumana Kayrouz, thank you so much for being an inspiration and for being here and being on the show. And I look forward to continue to working with you to help people and to keep going.
Can I tell you something?
Absolutely.
You are a masterpiece.
Oh,
you have to be studied as a masterpiece.
Oh, see, you can come on anytime. You're making me feel so good on the show.
You are doing God's work. And I am very blessed to know you.
Thank you,
And
Joumana.
thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in to a wonderful episode of Cases Gone Wild with our special guest, Joumana Kayrouz. Keep a lookout. You're going to see her on your way to work, on the bus, everywhere. But what a wonderful time discussing all kinds of stuff today with Joumana. If you or someone you know needs help, needs representation, you can reach out to Joumana or reach out to me, Jon Marko, at markolaw.com, markolaw.com, or 833-MARKO-LAW, M-A-R-K-O Law. And we'll see you in another 2 weeks on another Cases Gone Wild.